Where's the overflow? Is it 4H?
4H, yes.
4H?
Oh. Never. I'll go take your lunch right now, but I need.
And he can be
I'll just
loud.
bug
It's like the cry
somebody
room in a movie theater.
Otherwise, I would. It's the Google Doc.
Let me give my whole presentation with this.
Printed. Okay.
But didn't you connect?
Okay.
Okay, you want to power down for a while? That'll work for you? This doesn't start for another 8 minutes.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Mine is. Okay, everybody make sure that your cell phones are on silent. Not even vibrating. There's going to be no video or recording in the courtroom. And hats off if you've got a hat on.
That's the view, by the way. It was court TV.
That was Court TV playing an ad. Guess so. If I'm screwed behind. Representative Levitt here yet?
All please rise. Superior Court for the County of King is now in session. The Honorable Mark Larrañaga presiding.
Good afternoon. Please have a seat. If you would, just give me a few minutes to set up.
I was wondering about that. I was using. Now I think it's this. We can't start. I see somebody. Our notifications are popping up. What happened to that? There will be one. I was getting notifications.
It's been filed. 25-second clip that we can do. This one.
Give me 1 minute. Okay. All right, are we on the record,
No, now we are.
counsel?
Thank you. Your Honor, this is State of Washington versus Chase Daniel Jones under cause number 24-1-03358-7 Kent. I'm Amy Friedheim and Hannah Godwin are here on behalf of the state. The defendant is present with his attorney, Brad Barshas. We are here for sentencing after the defendant pled guilty on April 3rd, 2025. He pled guilty to 4 counts of vehicular homicide under the reckless manner prong for killing 38-year-old Andrea Smith Hudson, 12-year-old Boyd Buster Brown, 13-year-old Matilda Tilly Wilcoxson, and 12-year-old Eloise Wilcoxson. He also pled guilty to 2 counts of vehicular assault, also under the reckless manner prong, and both of those with aggravating injury aggravators for the injuries to Nolan Hudson, 14 years old, and 12-year-old Charlotte Hudson. Your Honor, he has an offender score of 10 on the vehicular homicides, which is a seriousness level 11, giving him a total standard range of 210 to 280 on lifetime $50,000 maximums, and also an offender score of 10 based on seriousness level 4, which gives him a total standard range of 63 to 84 months on 10-year 24 maximum for the counts 5 and 6. I just want defense counsel to confirm that they agree with the offender score and seriousness levels and ranges that I've set out for the court.
And again, good afternoon, Your Honor. For the record, Brad Barshas on behalf of Mr. Jones. We do agree with all of those recitations and standard ranges.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So, Your Honor, yesterday I rewatched the 25-second clip.
Counsel, before you begin.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Let me just make some preliminary remarks.
Yep.
I just want to put on the record what I've received
Oh,
and reviewed. Also, a little bit about procedure for today, so we are all on the same page of what to expect. I received the state's pre-sentence report. Yes, perhaps it was yesterday, perhaps it was the day before. Nevertheless, I received and reviewed a supplemental, which was the thumb drive with the video. I've received quite a few letters on behalf of the victims. Also received letters on behalf of the defense. I also received directly to our court some email correspondence from members of the community that I believe have been forwarded to both parties. Received also the defense pre-sentence report. Does the state think I may have missed anything?
I don't believe so, and I just want to confirm, do you want us to file the emails that you received directly, or have those already been filed?
I'm not sure if they've been filed yet. Have they? They have not. We can go ahead and file those.
Okay.
Does the defense believe or think I may have missed anything?
No, Your Honor, I think you had everything.
All right, let me talk a little bit about procedure today. What I'm envisioning is that this, obviously the state will proceed first, set forth their recommendation. I'm aware that individuals wish to speak, which obviously is certainly appropriate. Anybody that does speak, what I ask is that you come to the podium, that you provide your name, and that all comments and remarks are directed to me. And I don't think this will happen, but I understand that emotions can get, it's an emotional situation. And so what I would ask is that no derogatory or disrespectful comments. And also, given the nature of this the context that we're in today, that please feel free to take your time. There's no rush of anybody that's speaking. They need to stop and breathe. Please feel free to do so. After the state and the individuals on behalf of the victims, I'm sorry, I believe there might be a video as well.
Yeah, the families did bring a video, Your Honor.
After that is, we will take a short break,
Okay.
come back, proceed with the defense's recommendation, and conclude the sentencing. Does the state have any objections to that process?
I think that sounds great, Your Honor.
Defense?
No, Your Honor, that sounds good.
All right, thank you, counsel. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So as I was saying yesterday, I rewatched that 25-second clip that was sent to Your Honor that counsel and I have in discovery. And I watch it. It is a very clear video of the intersection where this collision occurred. And you can see a vehicle pull up and stop at what is a red light. And a second later, you can see Andrea Hudson's van filled with 5 children pull up behind that car and stop at the red light. There is a southbound vehicle that pulls up and slows down and stops. It is clear that at that point, that light is turning red, and the car in front of Andrea Hudson's vehicle then proceeds safely through the intersection, and a beat later, her van enters the intersection, and I stopped the video at that point. And I stopped the video because at that moment, Andrea Hudson is alive and laughing in the vehicle. There are 5 children, healthy, laughing. Are they singing? Are they telling jokes? They're all alive at that moment. And that's how I want to remember the people in that vehicle, healthy, alive. They will forever be 12 and 13 years old, 38 years old. Nolan and Charlotte will forever carry the scars in their heads and on their bodies from the injuries that they received. But at that moment, everybody is healthy, everybody is happy. And I look at the video and where is Chase Jones? He's not in that video because his car is so far down the road, because he is driving at 112 miles per hour. That's 164 feet per second. That is less than a second to drive across the width of a football field. And who is the person who's behind that wheel? Well, it's a person who 11 months beforehand, less than a year beforehand, totaled his parents' car in May of 2024 and admitted on body-worn video. King County Sheriff's Office got all the body-worn from those previous crashes and admitted the road was open, so I gave it some gas. And he's there with his parents and lectured by the police. 8 months later, in January of 2024, again at night, he crashes and totals a second vehicle. His parents are in the body-worn video. They've arrived. The man who he hit doesn't speak English very well. And he's saying, he's so fast. I didn't see. And inexplicably, he got a ticket. But Chase admits he was going very fast, and they lecture him on the body-worn vehicle. And they tell him, you can't speed because you can hurt somebody. You could damage somebody. You are really lucky. Oh yes, his parents hear the lecture from the police. He hears the lecture from the police. Less than 2 months later, he is driving 112 miles per hour, about to cross this intersection and change lives forever. If you think about what would have stopped him from continuing his selfish recklessness, I I don't know if it's this collision, because if you start the video again, and if you blink, first time I saw it, I thought there was a glitch in the video. If you blink, you miss the missile that is his vehicle that completely plows into the side of the van and takes it off camera. 2 other cars are damaged in this collision. So this is not just a 2-car collision. This was a 4-car collision. So what will stop Chase Jones from hurting other people in our community? It's not totaling his vehicles. Speed kills, we know this, but a prosecutor's job is threefold. We're quasi-judicial officers, not total judicial, but we're quasi-judicial officers. And our job is first to the community, for community safety. And we can't promise the community safety unless Chase Jones is off the street for long enough such that he will get out. This is not a lifetime sentence. He will get out. And his parents will have grandchildren with him. And they will have dinners with him. And they will watch him grow old. That will never happen to the parents who lost their 4 children, because 38, you're still a parent to a child. What will stop him? I don't know. But I have to say that as a prosecutor, we have to protect the community. The second thing is we have a duty to our victims for some accountability. And the third thing is we have a duty to the defendant. He was 18. His parents gave him 2 cars that he totaled and are proud that he saved money to buy a 3rd car at 18. So we balance out what could the sentence be, what protects the community, but also understand that he was 18. Your Honor, he pled as charged to all the felonies, including the aggravators. And I know that Your Honor knows what that means for those 2 aggravators. And that's why the defense pre-sentence report talks about youthfulness. We took into consideration that, and that's why we're asking that all of these counts be served concurrently. And we are asking that the low end of the standard range be on the fatalities, but high end of the standard range be on the 2 vehicular assaults. Although they will all be served concurrently for a total of 210 months if Your Honor follows the joint recommendation. This is a violent strike event. It was extraordinarily violent. And because of that, there's 18 months of community custody. And on that community custody, the defense has agreed to several conditions, including that he not drive without an intelligent speed assistance device on active mode. Now, right now, on the governor's desk is Bill 1596. It was brought forward by Representative Leavitt after this collision, but not because of this collision. If the governor signs it, we'll be the 3rd state in the nation to have intelligent speed assistance devices in the law. That doesn't prohibit, Your Honor, from ordering one. The act on the governor's desk, though, was named by the Senate the BEAM Act for Buster or Boyd, Eloise, Andrea, Matilda. So there's a legacy that maybe out of this, other people will not cause the damage that Chase Jones has caused. So we do ask Your Honor to order the intelligent speed assistance device in active mode. And what that does is it prohibits the driver from going 10 or more than 10 miles per hour over whatever the posted speed limit is. And it works by GPS, and some modern cars will tell you how fast you're going, and if you exceed the speed limit, it'll flash. That's an inactive mode. This device actually stops you from going more than 10 miles over whatever the posted limit is. Similar to the ignition interlock device. So we do ask you to order that. We ask you to order that he attend the aggressive level 2 driving program, and that he not drive without a valid license and insurance and have no moving violations. He has agreed to pay the legal financial obligations out of this. And sentencing, restitution will have to be determined at a later date. In the plea agreement, we started to let the court know there's some CVC, and the defense is aware of that, but the full amount of restitution we will have to determine at a later date. I don't anticipate it being much more than what we have put forward already. There is a Title 46 fee for all Title 46 crimes. It's $50. And there, of course, because he's agreed that he can pay these, there's the $500 victim penalty assessment. We are not asking for any court costs, and the defense is a private defense attorney, so there are no recoupment fees associated with this. I know that we have many speakers who are going to address the losses that they felt, so unless Your Honor has questions about our plea agreement or how we came to this decision or anything in the plea agreement, I'm going to turn the floor over to my colleague to start to introduce the victims.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state invites King County Sheriff's Office Deputy Stephen Johnson to speak.
I want to say thank you to the court for allowing me to speak. My name is Steve Johnson. I'm a deputy sheriff with King County. Before I share my thoughts, I just want to comment that I'm grateful these beautiful pictures are up here. It's a good reminder why I wanted to come speak. I've been thinking well over a year on what I would share if given the chance to speak today, so I'm grateful for that. I've been a law enforcement officer in the state for over 25 years, most of it with King County Sheriff. And I will say fortunately, one of the officers that responded to this collision. There aren't words to describe what that was like. I only want to speak to what I know. One of my roles at my agency is I am one of the peer supporters for my department. I believe very strongly in the services that we can offer to one another at my agency. And I just want to take this opportunity to share how this has impacted the first responder community. First responders come to this career for various reasons. Some come to help, some come to serve, but I believe there are common traits that run throughout. And I believe there are many of us that are drawn to this because we are meant to be strong and tough. but also balancing it with compassion. Since this collision, I have had officers who work in our area who I would call are the tough and the strong ones. These are the officers who go into our communities every day, and they serve with courage every day. And they often don't share their outward emotions for others or what's going on. I will tell you that some of them, and I will not name them, but they were so impacted by this, I got to see their humanity come through and reach out because they were hurting so deeply from what they did and what they saw at this collision. I was asked by many coworkers and friends and even some of my family what I would say today. And I'll be honest, right now I'm actually struggling with words. I think that it would be wrong for me to use this opportunity to speak about hate or anger or I think that this is best if I speak about a message of forgiveness. The families have demonstrated grace in a way that I have not seen ever. It was moving, to put it lightly. They've been very open about their faith. And I want to believe that's where they have found strength. And it has been inspiring for me and many others to witness that. I know, and they have demonstrated this, that there is a God in heaven that forgives, and I hope that someday Chase Jones can also have that forgiveness. I don't know what it's like to lose a child. I've experienced a lot of tragic things in my career, but I will never understand. I hope I never do what it's like to lose a child. My hope is that someday when Chase gets out of prison, if that's what happens, I actually hope he can have a family someday. I say that because I think only if he has a family of his own could he understand the bond of a parent and a child. And maybe then he can understand what he did. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now, Your Honor, we'll hear from Olivia Brown, sister of Boyd Buster Brown.
In the last year, I have considered driving to Chase Jones's home dozens of times. I have wanted to ask him questions. I have wondered, what is he like and what does he feel? Is he remorseful? Or does he just regret his choice on March 19th for its costs on himself? For the rest of my life, I will not know how to answer when someone asks me how many siblings I have. I will not play fiddle songs with my brother again, or bike around the neighborhood with him, or wash dishes while he loads them into the dishwasher. For the rest of my mom's life, she will mourn the boys she can no longer raise and watch grow up. My dad will never play basketball with his two sons on the court again. For the rest of his life, my brother Warner will live with the loss of his best friend and playmate. My little sister Nora may not remember the brother I love and know. She will never develop more of a relationship with him. We will live forever with a big hole in the room every time we gather. The Hudson children will never be held or comforted or taught or fed or put to bed by their own mother again, and for the rest of his life, Abe will live without his high school sweetheart and lifelong friend, lovely Andrea. And the WILCOXSONs have lost their eldest daughters. For the rest of their lives, they will have to live without Matilda and Eloise, who were some of the best girls I've known. As for Buster, Andrea, Matilda, and Eloise, they don't have any lives to live at all. Andrea will not raise her children. Buster, Matilda, and Eloise will never have families of their own. Considering this, I cannot see how any sentence Chase receives could make up for these losses. How could Chase have known what we would lose as he put full weight onto his gas pedal? Your Honor, I want Chase to know the brother I knew. I want him to see Eloise and Buster jumping over a fence in the sunshine in the middle of a run last spring. I want him to see Andrea's birthday cakes and Matilda's potted plants on the windowsill. If I was the judge of this trial, I would sentence Chase to watching the recordings of the 3 funerals and revoke his license for life. I'm not sure what amount of jail time will change him for the better and not the worse, but it is most important to me that he doesn't go behind the wheel and that he lives differently. I pray that Chase's sentence will push him in a positive direction. And finally, I pray for you. I cannot imagine being in your shoes, Your Honor. I cannot imagine a more difficult trial or complicated circumstances, but in the end, I pray that you will be guided to the most merciful and just sentence, even if that pushes what is traditionally accepted in American courts. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, Your Honor, we'll hear from JERON Brown, father of Boyd Buster Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm JERON Brown. I'm Buster's dad. I appreciate the opportunity to address the court and provide a glimpse of the impacts that the events of March 19th had on our family and my friends and myself. I've seen the future and know that a lifetime of grief awaits my wife and me. I lost my own father when I was a baby, and I grew up hearing stories about my dad from my grandmother, his mom. To her dying day, 40 years after the plane crash that killed her son, she would get teary and weepy recounting stories of her son. And that's the future that my wife and I have in store for ourselves. To our dying day, we will carry that grief and pain. I don't think I'm stretching the truth too much to say that by nature I am and always have been a pretty cheerful and optimistic person. The events on March 19th, 2024 have introduced a new word into my regular life, and that's hate. I hate Tuesdays. The crash happened on a Tuesday. I hate the 19th of every month, regardless of what day of the week it is. I hate the entire year, 2025, for being the year that Buster never saw. I hated the first warm day of spring this year because the day of the crash was an unusually early, warm spring day. I hate seeing other drivers weaving through traffic, especially if they're driving an Audi. I hate driving through the intersection of 192nd and 140th, which I do almost every day, and looking at the exact spot where Buster, Matilda, Eloise, and Andrea had their lives taken. I hate that my 2 closest friends of the past 10 plus years have had their families shattered and have had walk the same difficult path with me. I hate that my now 4-year-old will never have more than just a small handful of memories with her brother. I hate not being able to promise a worried 11-year-old that I'll come back when I leave the house, because I can't make that promise. I hate that my older son lost his best friend in the whole world. And I hate that next fall, when my oldest daughter, who just spoke, leaves for college, that her departure won't be the last day that our family spends together under one roof. I absolutely hate coming home from work and finding my wife alone in a bedroom, looking at pictures and crying for her lost son. There's one thing that's curious about all the hateful experiences I've had over the past year plus, and that's that the one thing I don't hate is Chase Jones. I can only attribute that to having been the subject of many thousands of prayers on my behalf for healing. I aspire to forgive him but to be honest, I don't think I'm all the way there yet. I do know it brought me no pleasure on the day of the hearing the plea hearing to see him handcuffed and led away from his own crying mom. Regardless of how I feel or don't feel towards Chase, I recognize that accountability and justice and deterrence are bigger concepts than my own personal feelings, and that our community and society can't function without holding up those important ideals. Thank you.
Thank you.
The court will now hear from Jessica Brown, mother of Boyd Buster Brown.
Your Honor, can't say I'm grateful to be here, but I am grateful for the opportunity to have a voice in this court today on behalf of my son and my dear friend Andrea and my two adopted nieces, ELOISE and Matilda. The actions of Chase Daniel Jones have greatly impacted mine and my family's life. I feel like I lost not only Buster, but myself that day. I used to be a reliable, active participant who showed up with a willing heart and cheery disposition in my various communities that I was a part of. Now what I have to offer feels like an empty shell of a person who has no bandwidth to spare. I've had trouble sleeping since the crash, often being woken up by the sound of racers in the valley, which brings immense feelings of anger and pain to the forefront and makes it hard to fall back asleep. My view of the vulnerability of life and anxiety for my children's welfare has gone up tenfold. When my teenagers say goodbye and drive away, I worry every time now that they might get hit. When they have been driving somewhere and call my phone, a part of me wonders if this is the moment where they tell me that they got in an accident. I see Chase's speeding Audi in my mind every time I turn left out of my neighborhood and imagine him running into me. For a long time, every time I heard sirens, the horrific crash scene would pop up in my mind as if someone had turned on a projector in my head that I can't switch off. I imagine it'll take a lot of therapy and the rest of my life to really work through some of these hard things. One of my daughters, as JERON mentioned, who used to happily babysit her younger sister, is now afraid to be left alone. If I have to leave, even only for a short time, she cries and asks, "How do I know you'll come back, Mom?" I can't honestly say to her the comforting words I so often used to rehearse to her, sung by the cartoon character Daniel Tiger, who sang "Grown-ups Come Back." That's certainly not something my dear friend Abe can say to his kids anymore, because their mom didn't come back. My son Warner, who was there by my side to witness the unimaginably sad scene of the crash, hardly spoke for 3 days after finding out that his brother, his second mom, and his two dear friends were killed, and that his other two friends were in critical condition. He just walked around our house with a blanket wrapped around his head for those 3 days, wandering in a daze from room to room. He slept on his older sister's floor for 4 months because he couldn't bear to go back to the room he shared with his little brother and best friend. I've watched my oldest daughter struggle with feelings of sorrow and isolation as she goes through her senior year, a year that's typically supposed to be fun. I have often heard her in her bedroom crying at night in the dark when she should be sleeping peacefully. Even my 4-year-old, who was only 3 at the time, gets sad and will ask me from time to time questions like she asked last night when I was tucking her in. "Mom, did God want Buster to die?" That show me, even though she's little, the impact on her is still profound. No 4-year-old should have to ask these hard questions. The weeks and months that followed the crash, I watched my cheerful, adventurous, and fun-loving husband turn down opportunities to engage in the hobbies he used to love. He became more lethargic, apathetic, and down than I've ever seen him. He even got sick for about 6 weeks with pneumonia. He was sicker than I've ever seen him in his life, and I believe it was due to his stress and grief. Your Honor, these descriptions are just a window into the impact on me and my family, but don't even speak to the impact of a future without Buster. The future where he would be getting a license, going on a first date, serving a mission, getting married, and one day becoming a father, which he was so excited to do one day. Nor do they speak to the impact the crash has had on the Hudsons and WILCOXSON family. Your Honor, I don't envy your position. I don't know what the right thing is to do. I've grappled with it. I've rewritten this about 10 times. But knowing that prisons don't have a great track record of changing people for the better, rather than advocate for an extended period of jail time, I'd like to advocate for two things. First, that part of Chase's sentence is watching the funeral videos of all 4 of the beautiful people his speeding killed that day. And second, I don't even know if this is possible, but that his license be permanently revoked. May the grace of God be with you as you make this decision. And also the grace of God be with Chase as he's held accountable to the consequences of this sad tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we'll now hear from Chase Wilcoxson, father of Matilda and Eloise Wilcoxson.
Your Honor, I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chase Wilcoxson. I'm the father of Matilda, Jane, and Eloise Margaret Wilcoxson. I have the impossible task of describing the impact of all this. How do I describe infinite? How do I help anyone understand what it's like to hear RIVKA's breathless voice on the phone saying someone had just killed her best friend, our daughters, and their best friend, Buster? To then arrive at the crime scene myself to help the detective identify the bodies. To spend that evening at Harborview waiting with Abe and praying that Charlotte and Nolan would survive. To not be able to have an open casket viewing because Eloise's beautiful skull had been crushed and their bodies severely mangled. To be mixed with both joy and devastation at the birth of our new daughter, who will never know her older sisters. To watch my wife silently suffer while trying to still be a fun and loving mother, wife, and friend. To realize that Chase didn't just kill our daughters, but our future grandchildren. And their children, and so on. To wake up every day realizing that the nightmare is real. And all of this is only the impact on us. What about the lives that each of the dead should be having right now? Matilda and Eloise should have decades of their life left to live and experiences to have. A first kiss, falling in love, getting married, raising children. Thousands of people they could have befriended, loved, and influenced for good, as they often did. He will never know what it's like to look into Matilda's giant, deep hazel eyes, or be inspired by Eloise's daringness despite her natural anxieties. He'll never understand what important leaders they were in our family, how lovingly they cared for their special needs brother. He has no idea what it's like to hold his own child tightly and feel their heart beating in their chest. How could he? How do I describe infinite impact? It's impossible. Chase Jones has destroyed our lives. This was no accident. This was no dumb mistake. 112 miles per hour, no braking, no swerving. But despite all of this, I do not hate him. I take no pleasure in his suffering. The only thing holding us together is our faith in God and hope in Jesus Christ. There is good that can come from this situation if he finally learns and is allowed to take responsibility for his actions. I have faith that the power to truly change can be his if he chooses. But it is apparent that he needs guidance in that process, and it isn't going to happen without some pain. I'm far from a perfect parent, but even I know that shielding your children from consequences is like building volatile pressure. If you don't let the pressure release with small consequences, it builds and builds until a catastrophic conclusion like the one we're in now. We are here today at least in part because Chase Jones was allowed to continue his destructive habits without consequence. Your Honor has the unenviable responsibility to arbitrate between justice and mercy, to rightly balance Chase's consequences. Like the parent he desperately needs, you must decide how best to help him reform. I don't want another life destroyed. There's already been too much of that. I do want Andrea, Matilda, Eloise, and Buster to be as real as possible in his mind. Inevitably, their abstract thoughts to him, he didn't know them. Perhaps you could order him to watch each of the recorded funerals, or review the body cams of the first responders that day, or review the autopsy files and pictures. Anything to remove abstraction. You could help the community by ordering him to speak to other teens about the dangers of racing. You might also consider permanently removing his privilege to ever drive again. I want consequences for Chase, not because of hate or vengeance, but because those consequences are necessary for his change. These consequences should be designed to help this process and to send a message to the community that we do not tolerate this sort of disregard and disrespect to human life. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now the court will hear from RIVKA WILCOXSON, mother of Matilda and Eloise WILCOXSON.
My name is RIVKA WILCOXSON. I am a close friend of Andrea Hudson and of Buster Brown and the mother of Matilda and Eloise WILCOXSON. For the last several years, my husband and I have deliberately constructed our family life to be in close association with these families, the Browns and the Hudsons, for many reasons, foremost among them being the diligent and adventurous, faithful and kind influence of Buster Brown. We want our sons to grow up to be like Buster. And the loving, playful, creative, and gentle influence of Andrea Hudson. We want our daughters to grow up to be like Andrea. I want to grow up to be like Andrea. These people are family to us. And Matilda and Eloise, from the moment we learned that we were expecting them, they have lit up our lives. They've been important leaders in our family of 7 children. They've brought us and countless other people so much joy. We were quite young parents, and we grew up with them in many ways. These 4 people loved and created beauty and goodness, and we feel their absence constantly. The loss of any one of them would have been devastating. The loss of all of them at once is unspeakable. Merely as an observer, my heart is broken over and over again as I watch my dearest loved ones bitterly grieve these losses, especially my sweet friend Jess and JERON and their children, and Abe, his children, and my husband, whose world revolves around his children. As a mother, the instinct to nurture and to protect the life that I created in this body is still there, even though my children aren't. My longing for them is like a heavy, cumbersome burden that I can't put down. It's always in the way, making everything feel difficult. The evening before the crash on a family bike ride in the sunshine, Matilda and Eloise were bickering over who got to pull the bike trailer, carrying their little brother Peter, who has a genetic disorder and can't ride a bike. I'd give almost anything to hear them bicker with each other again.
to hear them singing and laughing with their little sisters, Blythe and Esther, for them to wrestle their little brother Hugh, for them to know their baby sister Georgia, born 6 months after the crash. Give anything for the comfort of knowing that they'll be there for Peter when his dad and I aren't. For a family photo with all my children together. We belong to each other, and we belong together. Their lives are unspeakably precious. And not just because they're our children, but because they're God's. As is Chase Jones. And I would like him to know that while nothing I can say can absolve him of responsibility for his actions, I do forgive him. That he is loved with a perfect love. This is not the end of his story. I hope that a long and useful and happy life awaits him. Your Honor, I don't envy your task today, and I don't have a recommendation for you. I think it's regrettable that there's currently no legal avenue to prevent someone who has taken 4 lives with a vehicle from ever operating one again. I consider driving a privilege and not a right, and that would seem to me a fitting consequence. But perfect justice isn't possible in this world, and I hope that going forward, we can all just take more seriously our responsibility to be our brother's keeper, to encourage and nurture one another, especially our youth, in love and in truth. No sentence that you pass can restore Nolan and Charlotte to their former health, or our children, or Andrea, or Buster. That reunion will have to wait, and in the meantime, my only hope of peace is in the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Thank you.
The court will now hear from Ted Smith, father of Andrea Hudson and grandfather to Nolan and Charlotte.
Your Honor, I'm Ted Smith, the father of the deceased driver of the van, Andrea Hudson, and grandfather of the surviving passengers, Nolan and Charlotte Hudson. In a bit, you're going to all see wonderful videos of the 4 deceased. And you'll see what we've all been talking about. Andrea was happy and loving. She was an educated young mother and wife with a calm, confident smile that touched everyone. And she had a contagious laugh that you'll hear. She was deeply loved by many, family, big families, as you can see, and friends. As always, she was helping children and friends in that devastating moment of the crash. Her loss is incalculable to all of us. Now, we've all just celebrated Easter, and as you may know, all of the victims and their families share a Christ-centered faith, believing in the resurrection, that we can all live again, and in the importance of forgiving others. Now, turning to the sentence of Mr. Jones, while in my heart I want to fully forgive him, he violated critical laws designed to prevent the kind of horrific tragedy that he caused. For his personal thrills, he senselessly and intentionally drove like a missile through a busy neighborhood. My greatest concern is the future safety of our communities from Mr. Jones and others like him. Although the prison sentence range felt short to me, I respect the plea agreement reached by these capable attorneys and by Mr. Jones himself. I recommend, within the terms of that agreement, that he receive a 23-year prison sentence, which I understand can be reduced to about 15 years with good behavior. I also recommend that he be restricted from operating any motor vehicle in the future unless it's been appropriately equipped with anti-speeding technology. Some have talked about suspending his license for life or whatever, and that's probably some part of it, but I understand from national statistics that 75% of people with suspended licenses still drive. They find a way to drive. Having this technology that we now have could be a wonderful way to make sure that he's never allowed to speed again the rest of his life. Thank you for your consideration, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And now the court will hear from Robin Smith, mother of Andrea Hudson and grandmother to Nolan and Charlotte.
Your Honor, I'm Robin Smith, the mother of Andrea Hudson and the grandmother of Nolan and Charlotte Hudson. On the day of March 19th, 2024, my life and the lives of my family members changed forever. I received the news that my beautiful daughter Andrea was gone. I was also told at that time that Charlotte was gone, and the only survivor of the car crash was Nolan. That Buster and Eloise and Matilda were also gone. A couple hours later, we were informed that Charlotte was alive. Never could I have ever imagined a tragedy like this happening to our family. Nolan sustained some very serious physical injuries, and Charlotte a severe brain injury due to the crash. I have no words to describe the loss of Andrea being gone from my life. My heart is broken, and my heart aches for her every day. I miss her smile, her laugh, our conversations. I miss having her at all our family gatherings, and we have quite a few. I miss her walking into the kitchen and saying, "Hi, Mom." My heart aches for my children and for the Browns and the WILCOXSON families. It aches for Abe losing the love of his life and his best friend, and it aches terribly for my 3 grandchildren who have lost their mother. She brought so much joy into their lives. She was a peacemaker. She was an extremely kind and patient. She had a quiet strength about her. She was full of poise and grace. She loved to create things, and she loved to make her home beautiful. A beautiful environment for her family. She loved all her family, but Abe and her children were her life. They were her top priority, and she loved being a mother. Her family was her life. No one in the world can replace her. We all try to fill the void for the grandchildren the best that we can, but it cannot be completely filled without her. She was their everything. She was their light in the darkness. She was their hope when they were fearful. She was their calmness when they were anxious. And she was their joy in times of stress. She was the heart of their family, and she was their love. And they were the loves of her life. I feel the loss of Andrea every time at our family gatherings, when I look at her children, when I look at Abe, when I look at my children, when I'm in her home, when I want to get her advice, when I use avocado cooking spray, when I wear my red shoes, when I look at family photos, when I see a rainbow, and the list just goes on and on. There are so many lives that have been shattered by this incident. I know Chase Jones' life is severely affected too. My heart goes out to Chase Jones and his family, and I pray for them. I want Chase Jones to have a good life and a beautiful life. I personally don't want to see him go to prison. I don't think prison will help him improve his life. I wish there were some other way he could be held accountable for his actions. I know that we have to be held accountable for our actions, and I don't know what the answer is. I understand there has to be accountability, and I don't want to see this happen to another person or another family. I feel that if he maybe had been accountable in any of the earlier collisions, maybe that would have helped him, and maybe it would have prevented this terrible tragedy. I want to tell Chase Jones that I forgive him. In no way does this make the life of my daughter, Andrea, or Buster, or Eloise, or Matilda insignificant. But it helps me to have peace in my heart. And I want to be able to help my family. And by forgiving, I feel like I can have this peace, that's the way that I can create a beautiful life for my family. My hope is to help my grandchildren to build a beautiful, meaningful life for themselves, full of hope and light and joy. I want to create new, wonderful memories for them and to keep the memory of their mother alive. I want to see beauty for ashes, as it says in the book of Isaiah. Thank you.
And finally, the court will hear from Abraham Hudson, husband of Andrea Hudson and father of Nolan and Charlotte.
Your Honor, I am Abe Hudson, husband of Andrea Hudson and father of Nolan and Charlotte Hudson. I just want to share a few things in the short time that I have. On Saturday, March 16th, 2024, life felt close to perfect. Our family was together enjoying a sunny day in the snowy mountains, celebrating Charlotte's 12th birthday, teaching our 3 children how to ski. I can now only imagine the beautiful smile that Andrea would have had and the happiness that our family would have felt on that day. On that day, our dream had come true, a dream that we had put everything that we had into for the last 20 years. 3 days later, on March 19th, our world and the dream that we had created was shattered in an instant. It was destroyed by a senseless and a completely avoidable tragedy caused by an individual who, while not under any substance influence, made the conscious decision to race through that intersection at an incomprehensible speed, killing my wife, Andrea, killing 3 of our dearest friends, and permanently injuring 2 of my children. I arrived at the crash scene that day with my 8-year-old son, Jude, who has always been inseparable from Andrea. Due to significant learning challenges, Andrea decided to homeschool him and our other 3 children. She dedicated her life to them. I can only now imagine her sitting with him on her lap, patiently helping him with so much love. I can also still feel the pain that we felt that day after Jude and I discovered that the most important person in both of our lives had been killed. I can still see the fear and the pain in his eyes. I can still feel the anguish that I have from having to leave him and rush to the hospital, not knowing what condition my other 2 children were in. That month that followed was worse than any nightmare that I could ever imagine. As I paced back and forth from my 2 children's hospital rooms, feeling completely alone and scared, not knowing if they would recover, if Charlotte would ever smile again or speak again, fearing what they might remember from the crash, the pain of having to tell them that their mother had been killed, while not being able to be with and comfort Jude at home. And unfortunately, that only scratches the surface of the impacts. There's no way in this short amount of time to begin to describe the pain that we had to endure and continue to endure, this pain and fear that we still carry and feel every day. Nolan will have to deal with the impacts of a compromised immune system and limited range of motion for the rest of his life. Charlotte, the impacts of a severe traumatic brain injury for the rest of her life. There will be a gaping hole in all of our hearts for the rest of our lives from the loss of Andrea and our dear friends Matilda, Eloise, and Buster. We will never recover from this tragedy. We are left with lifelong physical, financial, mental, and emotional damages. Your Honor, nothing is going to bring them back or make this right. However, I can only hope that somehow the sentence given reasonably reflects the magnitude and lasting impacts of this heinous crime. That somehow today's outcome gets enough attention in our community to provide a positive impact, that it convinces some people to rethink their selfish decisions, to stop and care about those around them, that it somehow can save lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, the families have put together a video for Your Honor's viewing, if I may play it.
Of course.
If it close the door, night could last forever. Leave the sun shine out and say hello to never. All the people are dancing and they're having such fun. I wish you could happen to me. But if you close the door, I never have to see the day again. The pretty bars, shining Cadillac cars, and the people on subways and trains, looking right in the rain as they stand to survey. Oh, but people look well in the dark. And if you close the door, time can last forever. Leave the sun shine out and say hello to never. But people are dancing and they're having fun. I wish you could happen to me. 'Cause if you close the door, I never have to see the day again. I never have to see the day again.
Venting again? There she goes again. Nice job, Till. Good job.
Hurry! You have to go with me. Ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go!
There's Mom.
Everybody dance.
I didn't even see you had making it.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, good night.
And Your Honor, that concludes the state's presentation.
Thank you. Why don't we take our afternoon break at this, nothing else from the state, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Why don't we take our afternoon break and come back in about 15 minutes? We'll be in recess.